No, you can't do that. You gotta be a master to do that type of
Don't
stuff.
be no fool.
Like you said, in the morning.
But in the morning, when the sun is rising,
Sunrise, sunset, right?
check it out.
Fool.
Yeah, don't be no
Yeah,
fool.
because that's-
Go out there at high noon. Question, bro?
No, just speak on what you were saying as being intuitive in nature. I had went through a situation recently, do like meditation, where I felt like the birds was talking. And I was following each direction that the bird would show me to go. I was in my car, but I would listen and watch. And every time a bird would go this way, I would turn that way. And the bird actually led me through my neighborhood and areas I just moved into a neighborhood. So it took me through the neighborhood in a complete circle, all the way back to my home. Not the exact bird, but just listening to nature. And when I got back around my family, they thought I was crazy.
Yeah, man. Is this your first time in our class?
No. I can't.
You've been here before? I don't recognize him, so.
I was at Denny's.
At Denny's? All right, cool. So is this your first time here?
Yes.
All right. Now, look how comfortable he is to say something like that. He went home and told his family, people he should be comfortable with, and they called him a nut.
Yeah.
And everybody's sitting in here like, dang, Mr. Burris would have let me.
They just didn't feel as though
Well,
it was normal.
I don't mean they verbally called you a nut, but you know what I'm saying? They like, hey, all right, Burris, okay. But everybody here understands.
Tell them that my mind is speaking to me. Something's wrong.
Everybody ain't ready for that. I tell people all the time, I speak to my ancestors all the time. My grandmother, one of my grandmothers made transition in 2001. And I done seen her more than 20 times. We laugh and joke and talk it up. My trainer, he made transition a couple years ago. I haven't talked to him. Don't think that you can't talk to them because they left. They physically left. They physically left. Understand who y'all are. Exactly. Energy can't be destroyed, but understand who y'all are. And start to live. Let's get that treaty. Y'all should be on, I think, page 49.
Story
64 for you, Blah. Treaty of Peace and Friendship. What I say, 49? Yeah, 49. Everybody got it? You got it back there?
Yeah.
Big red. That's my aunt back there, man. Yeah, hiding. The Treaty of Peace and Friendship. That's the wrong one. That's the Treaty of Tripoli. That's the Treaty of Tripoli.
I think you want page 40.
I'm on 55. Y'all need 40. I apologize.
The preamble or what?
Yeah, to the preamble, I apologize.
Yes, 40.
I was on Tripoli. We ain't there yet. So y'all need page 40. 55 for you, Block. Everybody good? Yes. To all persons to whom these presents shall come or be made known, whereas the United States of America in Congress assembled by their commission bearing the date, the 12th day of May, 1784, thought proper to constitute John Adams, Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson, their ministers plenipotentiary, given to them, or a majority of them, full powers to confer, treat, and negotiate with the ambassador, minister, or commissioner of His Majesty, the Emperor of Morocco, concerning a treaty of amity and commerce, to make and receive propositions for such treaty, and to conclude and sign the same, transmitting to the United States Congress assembled for their final ratification. For people who was here when we did the Articles of Confederation and the Declaration and all of that stuff, the United States of America in Congress assembled is who?
The Moors.
Okay. So who was the authority of this land?
Wars.
And this treaty is one of what?
Peace and friendship.
Amity and commerce. Amity and Commerce. Y'all pages are a little different than mine, so I'm gonna skip over to the page, maybe y'all next page with the flag. Y'all see the Moroccan flag?
Yes.
Everybody got the Moroccan flag?
Yes.
All right. I'm gonna start off where it says Article for a Treaty of Amity. Y'all got that? Nobody yet? I'll start at the beginning of that sentence. Is it the beginning of that sentence? All right. It looked like a run-on sentence for like 2 days. So I'm gonna start at the top of the paragraph where it says, and by one other commission. And by one other commission bearing the date. Okay. He said it's still on 40. So I'm gonna start off where I left off,
Okay.
after ratification.
Oh, I see, okay.
Okay. And by one other commission bearing the date, the 11th day of March, 1785, did further empower the said ministers, plenipotentiary, or a majority of them, by writing under the hands and seals, to appoint such agent in the said business as they might think proper with authority under the directions and instruction of said ministers, to commence and prosecute the said negotiations and conferences for the said treaty, provided that the treaty should be signed by ministers. And whereas we the said John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, two of the ministers plenipotentiary, the said Benjamin Franklin being absent, by writing under the hand and seal of the said John Adams at London, October 5th, 1785, and the said Thomas Jefferson at Paris, October the 11th of the same year, did appoint Thomas Barclay, agent in the business aforesaid, giving him the powers therein, which by the said second commission we were authorized to give, and the said Thomas Barclay, in pursuance thereof, both arranged articles for a treaty of amity and commerce between the United States of America and His Majesty the Emperor of Morocco, and sealed with his royal seal, being translated into the language of said United States of America, together with the attestations thereto annexed are the following words to wit. Now before we read that, y'all see another name in there, Thomas Barclay. Some people might not be familiar with that name from history, but they appointed Thomas Barclay to do their bidding. All they did was say, all right, cool, I'm in London, he's gonna be in Paris. We need you to go over there and take care of this flag. All right. Now, pretty much, Secretary of Foreign Affairs. Now, this goes back to what you said earlier about Morocco. So, you're talking about His Majesty of Morocco. So, now we know that they're actually in Morocco. You don't find that out when you start talking about going back and forth from this port to that port. Now, for anybody who questions it, that this is the Moroccan Empire, tell me why is it that they came from all the way over here, and most of their business was done right here in downtown Philly. What the hell is the reason for leaving Philly to go all the way over there to be able to come back here to do business? I'm gonna sit down. I'll wait.
That's plain as day.
Because people don't know the contract. And this is not Morocco, the corporate construct that the U.S. created. This is out Morocco, the original,
That's right.
the grid.
You are in the current and present Moroccan Empire. It didn't change just because they said it changed. And, right, you know,
That was
when
the 52 fake out.
a couple, about 20 years ago, the place was called USSR,
Yeah.
right? It's now called what?
Russia.
Same place. They put another name on? Same place.
Put another name on, broke it up. Three different regions.
Same place. Ukraine and Russia and
Kiev.
Kiev and Uzbekistan and all. Same place. They put whatever name they want to put. Same place. I just want to make that clear because people will say, well, how is this the Moroccan Empire? You tell me, why would they leave Philadelphia, go all the way to Morocco, come all the way back to do business? We can do what we want. By the time they get here, we have an army waiting for them.
Plus the flag is like in the president's office. Like when you see it when they're speaking, there's right there. The flag, yeah, you know, they can choose any other
Listen,
flags.
I'm gonna give y'all something else to look up. go write this down. Go to YouTube and type in Hillary Clinton
Yeah, that's what I
in
meant.
the Benjamin Franklin room.
Yup.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly. Yup.
And watch the video.
I've
That's
seen
what I was
her
talking
and,
Hillary Clinton in the Benjamin Franklin room.
September 11,
But
2012.
also, what's the date?
September 11, 2012.
September 11, 2012. And sit there and listen to her. How she talk about our dealings with Morocco. I ain't never heard about no dealings with Morocco. I mean, but let's be realistic, y'all. Y'all watch CNN, y'all watch the news. When have you ever heard of any dealings with Morocco? You don't. Ain't no oil over there. It's desert. So what dealings they got? What we getting, sand for the baseball field? We need more sand for the baseball down there.
For the beaches that are rolling.
Let's get back to the treaty, y'all. In the name of Almighty God, this is a treaty of peace and friendship established between the United States of America, which is confirmed by who? If it's confirmed, then that means, all right, it's legit. So, all right, so it's confirmed by who? By Moors. Which is confirmed, and which we have ordered to be written in the book and sealed with our royal seal at the court of Morocco in the 25th day of the blessed month of Shaban in the year 1200, trusting in God it will remain permanent. Hey, y'all forgive me because I looked up Shaban. I think, y'all forgive me, it slips my mind. I looked it up and I meant to have it for y'all so you would know exactly what it was. Somebody, SetenRa. Y'all got them phones. Somebody pull it up for me.
I think it's
I'm thinking it's
October.
What do you say, October?
I would assume it's October.
I'm thinking it's October. I think it's like the holiest month. So-
Islamic calendar, hold on.
I'm thinking it's it. I'll tell you what, y'all write it down. SetenRa.
Eighth month on the Islamic calendar.
The 8th month on the Islamic calendar.
And this
That's
is 12
October. That gotta be October.
That was just last month, just ended.
All right. So when y'all get a chance, check it out. Morocco, peace and friendship. We under the flag now. Treaty sealed by the Emperor of Morocco, June 28, 1786, and deferred to the American agent at Morocco, June 28, 1786. Additional articles signed and sealed on behalf of Morocco, June 15, 1786. Ship signals agreement signed at Morocco, July 6, 1765. It should be 85. It say 65 in the book?
Yeah.
Entered into force, July 15, 1786. Treaty and additional article ratified and proclaimed by the President of the United States, July 18, 1787. Who was that president?
Take clear.
Arthur St. Clair. Expired, replaced, January 28, 1837. By Treaty of September 16, 1836. I'm going to write that date down. And when somebody hears why the treaty expired, I want y'all to tell me. Somebody, you ain't got to raise your hand, just shout it out. You're going to write this date down. January 28th. (1837). When you hear why, somebody say something. If you know why now, don't say anything because I want people to think and I want people to listen and I want people to comprehend what they read. So if you know why it expired then, don't say nothing yet. Article 1. Now, before I start reading, I want y'all to do a couple things. I want y'all to listen and I want y'all to comprehend what y'all read. If anybody, if I read anything that strikes a nerve in you, speak up. Don't just let me run past you. Maybe you see something that I didn't. So if something strikes a nerve, speak up. And if you see me pause, like y'all see me pause all the time, that means y'all should have seen something. So, you know what I'm saying? I want y'all to stay vigilant. And if I come in something is said or read that you don't understand, speak up. Don't sit around in silence. All right? Article 1. We declare that both parties have agreed that this treaty, consisting of 25 articles, shall be inserted in this book and delivered to the Honorable Thomas Barclay, the agent of the United States now at our court, with whose approbation it has been made and who is duly authorized on their part to treat with us concerning all matters contained therein. So Article 1 is just saying that Thomas Barclay is the go-between. Article 2. If either of the parties shall be at war with any nation whatever, the other party shall not take a commission from the enemy, nor fight under their colors. I paused. That means y'all was supposed to see something. Anybody who has served in the U.S. military, raise your hand. Either of the parties shall be at war with any nation whatever. The other party shall not take a commission from the enemy, nor fight under his colors. Now at the time, y'all didn't know. You thought you were a U.S. citizen. But a U.S. citizen, U.S. is a whole nother nation state, right? Y'all Moors. Y'all ain't supposed to be fighting under that red, white, and blue. You ain't supposed to join their military. You ain't supposed to take a commission from their military. See how they bamboozled you? They just flat out let you go ahead and do whatever. You ain't, none of us can go to Caribbean and join the military. They ain't gonna lie. You shouldn't be a part of the United States military. In reality, we should have our own. We don't. Article 3. If either of the parties shall be at war with any nation whatever, and take a prize belonging to that nation, and there shall be found on board subjects or effects belonging to either of the parties, the subjects shall be set at liberty and the effect returned to the owners. Y'all should be stopping. If either of the parties shall be at war with any other nation and take a prize belonging to that nation, and there shall be found on board subjects or effects belonging to either of the parties, the subjects shall be set at liberty and the effect returned to the owner.
So the 13th, 14th Amendment are violate this because we're on the subject. And we belong elsewhere.
You already know that they fraudulent anyway. There was no constitutional convention to enact anything. The thing why I stopped here is because of those two words, subjects and effects.
What about prize?
The prize, the subjects and the effects, right? So it says that the subjects shall be set at liberty. What does that mean? They should be free. But if this chair is mine, it can't be set free.
No.
That's an effect.
See? I want y'all to pick up on this stuff. The subjects are people. The subjects are people.
Without a nationality.
That's why I say if any subjects, if you come onto my ship, you start collecting prizes, but these three people are my slaves, you can't have them because the treaty says you got to do what? You got to set them free. Now my chair, you got to get back. But all my loot, you can take it. Prizes. It's there. It's right there. And if any goods belonging to any nation with whom either of the parties shall be at war shall be loaded on a vessel belonging to the other party, they shall pass free and unmolested without any attempt being made to detain them.
Unmolested, first of all, which means that any contracts that we agree to without full knowledge of the law, it don't apply to us, but we become subject to it because we're not in our proper personal national status.
What contracts you talking about?
Any contract.
Like what specific?
Like the contract that we have right here in the conversation. If the contracts that we're having here in this conversation are not in line with nature, like we were just hearing about the, the conversation that he was having with nature, then there's not a lawful agreement. In other words, we cannot do business unless we have our banner, or our nation states to do business in. Am I correct?
What contracts you was talking about?
I was gonna say birth certificate and social security numbers.
Those contracts, a second ago, you said we are not party to these contracts because of what?
Nationality, the lack thereof.
Now, when you have a birth certificate, you are what?
Subject.
Subject. Do you have a nationality?
No.
You have a nationality. You have not
Yeah,
declared it.
correct.
You have not claimed it. Now, if you don't know, that's one thing. That's one thing. But if you do know, and you don't claim it, then you stay a subject. Here, if any goods belonging to any nation, with whom either party shall be at war, shall be loaded on a vessel belonging to the other party, they shall pass free and unmolested. You stopped me because of unmolested.
Yes. Because free and unmolested goes back to liberty in the other sense, in other words. That's how masses of people are being molested upon, because they're operating from a subject matter state of consciousness, I should say.
I understand what you're saying, but in this sense, they're talking about goods. They're talking about things on the ship.
You got my
So,
stuff.
so whatever is on the ship, whatever we take off the ship, we put back on your ship, and then we let you go unmolested. We're not going to stop that. Get out of here. You already been defeated in war, but we're not going to do what they do, take booty and prize.
Right, okay.
Take your stuff, get out of here. Your subjects, y'all go, y'all free. That's what they're referring to here. It's good.
There's visuals of that on like older, a lot older, war movies. Whereas when the particular battle is over, the losing party, you'll see them, the people who won will still be battering them. They'll let them collect their dead, I don't think they'll let them collect weaponry, but, their goods, them goods per se, they're allowed to reclaim.
They pick up their stuff and they go.
Right.
And that's the same way it was here. Now see, as we get further into it, you'll see that they even talk about if one of the nations is at war with another nation. We don't just, because they got defeated, we don't just run up in here and take everything. No, take your stuff, get out of here. Article 4. A signal or pass shall be given to all vessels belonging to both parties, by which they are to be known when they meet at sea. Now, how do you know who's who at sea?
Banner, flag.
Their flag is flying. In the United States case, a banner. And if the commander of a ship of war of either party shall have other ships under his convoy, the declaration of the commander shall alone be sufficient to exempt any of them from examination. So that means if I got my flag flying, and I got 4 of these guys right here, and they following me, as soon as I say they with me, y'all leave them alone. My word, because I'm the commander of the ship, is supposed to be good enough. Article 5. If either of the parties shall be at war, and shall meet a vessel at sea belonging to the other, it is agreed that if an examination is to be made, it shall be done by sending a boat with 2 or 3 men only, and if a gun shall be bred, an injury done without reason, the offending party shall make good all damages. Now, I'm sure y'all seen this on some movies. When a ship pulls up, they drop a boat, and they send 2 people to check it out, see what's going on. That was love. That's just not arbitrarily done in movies. They done it because that's what's supposed to be done. Even the military will do it. They won't pull up their whole, they can't pull up that big old ship. They drop a boat. He's a Navy, he's a sailor, so, and then they send a couple people to check it out. Article 6. If any more shall bring citizens of the United States or their effects to His Majesty, the citizens shall immediately be set at liberty and the effects restored, and in like manner, if any more, not a subject of the dominions, shall make prize of any of the citizens of America or their effects, and bring them into any of the ports of His Majesty, they shall be immediately released, and they will be considered as under his majesty's protection.
Yeah, I have a question about that.
Mm-hmm.
I read that first thing about my head is POWs, but are we still under, is Article 6 still being applied as being during wartime?
Make me at war?
Because you shouldn't have none of their subjects captured unless you've been captured.
Right.
Now, the thing is this. See right there, it says any of the ports of His Majesty. Y'all see that?
And that got my mind.
It's not in it?
It's on the one online.
You want Article 6? Okay, all right. I know my book ain't that special. It says any of the ports. And ports is what?
Where ships die.
Ports is plural. Oh, she's on point. Ports is plural, right? So, if it was only one port, if it was just a rocket, it would say in his port, they would just go to the rocket.
They say any of the majesty's port.
Ports, plural. So you're talking about the Moroccan Empire. Be clear. Be clear. It's little subtleties, little small words that we got to pick up on. Ports. And all of that stuff we just read, that's my favorite because it's plural. Islam, Sheikh. Islam, right? Article 7. If any vessel of either port shall put into a port of the other and have occasion for provisions or other supplies, they shall be furnished without interruption or molestation. Shall full or put? I guess that's a grammatical.
This one says put, shall put into
Yeah,
a
that's what
port.
it say, put.
Pull, place, put.
I guess that's grammatical because, they didn't talk back then like we talk now.
Well, it falls under the
Put,
same
pull,
terms. Right.
That's American.
Article 8. If any vessel of the United States shall meet with a disaster at sea and put into one of our ports to repairs, she shall be set at liberty to land and reload her cargo without paying any duty whatever. The duty is what? Tax. So just by a little bit that we read, we only 8 articles in. You see that they are being protected.
Very much so.
They are being protected by who? By the Sultan of Morocco. You see, they are being protected. Article 9. If any vessel of the United States shall be cast on shore on any part of our coast, she shall remain in the disposition of the owners, and no one shall attempt going near her without their approbation, as she is then considered particularly under our protection. Clear as day. And if any vessel of the United States shall be forced to put into our ports by stress of weather or otherwise, she shall not be compelled to land her cargo, but shall remain in tranquility until the commander shall think proper to proceed on his voyage. It's clear. You see that they're clearly being protected. If any vessel of if any vessel of either of the parties shall have an engagement with the vessel belonging to any of the Christian powers within gunshot of the forts of the other, the vessel so engaged shall be defended and protected as much as possible until she is in sea. And if any American vessel shall be cast on shore of the coast of Wadnoon or any coast thereabout, the people to her shall be protected and assisted until by the help of God, they shall be sent to their country. If any of the parties, if any vessel of either of the parties. Now, when we say of the parties, who are we talking about? So we talking about Morocco and the United States. So it says, if either party shall have an engagement with the vessel belonging to any of the Christian powers. Meaning the United States, we're going to read it anyway, but it's clear. But they tell you today that this is a Christian nation. All right. See, that's what I'm saying. See, like I told you, if I pause when I'm reading, I'm pausing for a reason. I'm pausing because I'm trying to alert y'all. I don't want to start doing flips and screaming like, did you hear what I just read? I want y'all to hear. I want y'all to hear. Yeah, all of y'all can read just like me. All right. What are we on, Article 10? 11? Yep. If we shall be at war with any Christian power, and any of our vessels sail from the ports of the United States, no vessel belonging to the enemy shall follow until 24 hours after the departure of our vessels. And the same regulations shall be observed towards the American vessels sailing from our ports, be the enemies, Moors or Christians. You say something?
Well, I'd say they're saying they're Christians now, right?
The initial
Well,
read,
but it also sounds like Christians are just like human cargo, human waste, unclaimed. Because the only thing that seems like it exists right now is the United States, or the parties, the United States and Morocco.
Christian. Now, a second ago it said a vessel belonging to any of the Christian powers. So that doesn't mean that they're waste or that they're scum on the bottom of the earth. That just means that there were actually Christian powers out
Sam and the city,
Right,
there, right?
right.
So we won't. Although you may think or you may feel the way you feel about them, we won't disregard them because they're there.
Right.
Regardless of whether their doctrine is true or not, they're there, right? All it said was, be the enemies, Moors or Christians.
The enemies to who?
Anybody can be an enemy.
Moors and Christians.
Well, you saw it, so let's be clear. You do know that we fought each other.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Right, but that in part sounds like there's an invisible party involved in the
Where you see that?
conversation.
Where you see that?
Were you
Can I
saying
make a
between Moors and
comment?
Christians?
They said we.
I think he's talking about the British Moors because the real fight was between British Moors, our cousins, and the Christians,
I know.
subjects to.
I wanted to see if that's where he was going. To the British or Brutish Moors. See, you remember when we were doing the articles and we talked about the Brutish Moors, right? Okay. So when you talk about Brutish Moors, they were where? Were they Christians? So then we can't say that we're talking about waste when you talk about the Christians. That's what you said a minute ago. You talking about waste.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Subjects.
I see what you mean.
All right. So enemies being Moors or Christians could be us fighting each other.
Correct.
Could be us fighting them. You see what I'm saying? Anybody else unclear on anything?
on Article 11, the initial we, at the end of the sentence, it separates the United States from, Moroccan entity, but the second word in the sentence is we. Does that we represent Morocco and the United States?
No, that we represents us. You got to remember, this was given to them by the Sultan of Morocco. So when he says we, he's talking about us. Article 12. If any ship of war belonging to the United States shall put into any of our ports, she shall not be examined on any pretense whatever, even though she should have fugitive slaves on board. Nor shall the governor or commander of the place compel them to be brought on shore on any pretext, nor require any payment for them. You know the problem? We gave them too much credit and too much damn trust.
That's what I'm saying.
When I think about this Treaty of Peace and Friendship, and I think about all of the regents who were against the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, you know what it makes me think about is Shaka Zulu. Anybody here not seen Shaka Zulu? You did? Anybody else didn't see? You didn't see? I just seen Shaka for the first time a couple years ago, bro. And I didn't watch it just because I wasn't gonna sit in the house long enough as a youth watch no 4-day movie. But I watched it. A friend gave it to me probably about 10 years ago, somewhere around there, and I watched it. So y'all know Shaka was like one of the most fierce warriors we had. Nkosi is what they called him, the king. Right? Shaka's mother told him never leave an enemy behind? Or who was it that told him that? Or did he say it later on? Yeah. You never leave an enemy behind because the enemy will rise up later and cut your throat. Now the thing was this. Shaka was trashing everything in his path. Europeans showed up. They was like, "Hey, what's up?" Shaka like, "Yeah, come on in. Sit down, get something to eat." Hey, Shaka, I don't know about these cats. Nah, man, they cool. Nah. Hey, Shaka, I don't know about these cats. Come on in, man. I'm gonna teach you Zulu. Hell is on your mind. Come on in. We trust y'all. Eat. Have fun. What ended up happening?
But then don't you question, like, wasn't the word getting back to the Sultan of what would happen? For him to keep, or I can't say keep, for him to initially, make peace.
You see right there, it said they didn't say nothing. They didn't want to say nothing. Probably out of fear
And just
of going against the Sultan. Listen, listen, you watch gangster movies, you hear him talking about fear and love, right? So, out of respect, if I just respect you, then I'm going to tell you, hey, listen, you screwing up.
True.
But if I'm scared,
Yeah.
if I fear you, I probably ain't going to say nothing because I'm scared of what you're going to do to me.
Yep.
It don't make sense that the Regents wouldn't speak up and say anything. You see what I'm saying? But when it comes to Shaka Zulu, Shaka welcomed them in. And what ended up happening was the Europeans came back with guns and everything and started wreaking havoc. Shaka's own people ended up killing him because now look where we at because you trusted them after we told you not to. Go ahead, Raj.
I'd like to say, like a lot of people say that, like, why did the Sultan make peace, like that. But I think that what we really, really have to recognize is that we are responsible for this being called the Albion being here, and that we have had generations and generations and centuries of wars against the Cretans, which is the Christians, which Cretan, it comes from Cretan, which is skin disease originally. And it's because we did that. So at some point, we just had to make the peace, and then we have to just simply have knowledge about the history. A lot of times I find people looking for this protection from some other system or being, like, well, why didn't the Sultan know that? I mean, no, the question is, didn't we know who we are and what was going on? And that same thing comes to now. We like give this power to these Christian powers, as we call it, and Christian really means skin disease. We give them power that they don't have. But we do it because we fight each other, and we started really fighting each other more because we made them. Because some of us didn't think we should make them. And the others of us said that we should. And then after it happened, it's a little late. Someone to keep them in slavery because they came over here as subjects of the British Moors. And the British Moors simply wanted us, the Moroccans, to keep them in slavery. And we said, no, we can't. We got to end this. We got to do peace because we can't retract it. And it's just been, our mental attitude about it is because of our lack of knowledge of it. And so we can't take these positions, one of who's right, who's wrong. It's done. I mean, even the Bible says, look what you have wrought. Look what you've done. Look what you've done. So we don't take responsibility for what we've done by acknowledging it. And then the second part is we take this other thing like, well, isn't somebody going to protect us? No. No, there's nobody. We're independent, fearless, and upright. That's Moors. Whether we're fighting our cousins about something we did or didn't do or not. So we have to take this position, and I know it's difficult because we simply lack the knowledge of what really happened and is a result of cause and effect even to this day. So we have to change our mental perception of it. Huh? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. That's it. And stop looking for someone that's going to protect us when we have to protect ourselves. But we have to first acknowledge what we did. And so that's why it was happening. And also, the United States, it's used loosely. And in some of those writings, I suggest that you all read the John Adams observation letter. because they'll use United States loosely when they're talking about the United States of America, because the states that were arising out of the United States of America to seat the European or the Albion here. So they'll use it loosely, so if you read it, you'll see it, because the United States really, when you look at it now, we are the people of the United States, or the United States. We gotta get real clear, or else we're gonna get it screwed up. So we're not separate like Moors in the United States. But when you read some of the old stuff, and that's why I say read the observation letter from John Adams, and you'll be able to figure it out yourself, that they loosely used that at first, saying the United States, because we didn't have states set up. We didn't have to. So they had to be formed for these people that came, which was the Albions. They came from the jails, and they were the true criminals, for real, to work the plantations. I know this sounds crazy because it's so reversed from what's true, but if you read the confederations, and I think he went over them a month ago, you'll see that it's right there from the congressional records that when the Europeans, or Christians, if you call it, Greeks, came over here, they were working the land, working the plantations. We were not on the plantation, they were. And they were running from that brutish hard hand. And so they were the original ones here doing this work, because noble Moors were not necessarily going to be doing that. So now you got these subjects over here of brutish Moors. It's the problem, right? Over here, and we're saying, all right, whatever, you know, whatever, cause, you know, whatever. So going right back to what he said with Shaka Zulu. All right, whatever, cuz, but I don't know. You need to keep these distinctions, and here's what happened. We have failed to keep the distinctions. We have given this land and the power to it to European Albions who came over here, and they call themselves Americans, and that's the first thing. They are not the Americans. It's so important. And if you ask them, they'll tell you themselves, well, my mom was Irish and my father was Jewish. They're not the Americans. Take back our place and understand the history of the land. And that they didn't sell it, they didn't buy it, it can't be bought, can't be transferred. So I think our first mental outlook is to know where we are in it, and the only way is to go through. Like, for instance, he's talking about the treaty, and my son and I were talking. Yeah, the treaty is absolutely supreme. It says that in Article 6 that all treaties into an agreements prior to are valid. But it is enforced through what? The Constitution. Because we took the Constitution, like all peace and all problems, like people say we lost the war, no, we didn't lose anything. That's a wrong perception. We created the Constitution for the law of our land, period. And it was supposed to erase all conflict, and every being that's here has a place in it. That was the peace that we seek today. The peace we seek today already exists. Our ancestors already eloquently placed it and accepts all people, naturalized, subject citizens, foreigners, all of them are accepted under this Constitution. That means everything else is done. That's the peace we seek. So our duty is to simply enforce that, and that's how you enforce the treaty. Because the treaty happened first to bring peace, because like as I said when I first started, we established this being. The Frankenstein story is our story. And then we ran from it. That's why they got that folklore story of Frankenstein. We just don't know where we are in it. Frank being Franks. Frank. There it is, it's right there. So the treaty was to make the peace. Done. It says in there exactly what he was just reading, how things are supposed to be handled on the sea. So do people talk about they're in admiralty courts? No, you're not. Because admiralty court and any issue is dealt in the Supreme Court and not on any court that you find here with no delegation. So then the Constitution came for the law of the land. And we just got to get that straight in our minds and take responsibility and recognize our obligation. So it's great, SetenRa, that you're going through this so we can go back to understanding our position. But we can't separate ourselves from each other anymore. And we gotta have the right history, knowledge. Take our place amongst the what? Affairs of man. And link back to what? The family of nations. We got history right there.
That same problem that she just spoke about about us fighting, we see it right now.
Yes.
Every time you turn around, it's another debate.
Yep.
It's another one saying
Pissing
he
time.
said that, she said that. Me and SetenRa going to argue about, is yellow really a nice color? And it's getting us what?
Nowhere.
Nowhere. Some people enjoy the debates. Some people enjoy a good argument. But let's be clear, they're not debating, they're destroying each other, because the debate is this. They give us a
By the
topic.
way, you said,
Give-
my
give-
yellow
give-
belongs to Gemini and it means communication energy. So there you go.
Give me a topic.
I'm a Gemini.
Any topic. Cook. Now,
No,
when it comes to the topic of cooking, we're going to debate. So I'm going to present some information, you're going to present some information, and we're going to challenge each other's presentations, right? That's a debate. That's not what's going on. That's not what's going on. What's happening is this. I got an hour and a half, and I present what I'm going to present, and then I go sit down. And then Ms. Raheem come up for an hour and a half, and he present. That's not a debate.
nope.
That's not a debate. That's me trying to prove him wrong, and really is him proving me wrong because I went first.
Yep.
So he got to sit there for an hour and a half and listen to me say what I got to say, and then he said, "I got this, I got him."
Yep.
And the whole time while he's sitting there, he got Bilal, he got Sabrina, he got Hector. Everybody's sitting there like, "Yo, yeah, get him on this. Yeah, yo, come here, get him on that."
Yeah.
That's what's going on. That's not a debate. A debate is she just gave us the topic. I say I like cooking. He say no, you don't. I say yes, I do. He say no, you don't. That's debate. Back and forth. Tug and war is a debate. That's not what's going on. What's going on now is the destruction of our people in your faces, and we out here,
Contest.
and we
I see
spending.
women doing that.
We say pissing contest.
Yeah, it's pissing contest. That's what's going on
So,
now. My son's
and the thing is, they collecting huge amounts of fiat for it.
Oh yeah, they charge like $30 to get into the
I mean,
thing.
come on, you paying for this? People, when I went to Black and Nobel on Monday, right? Hey man, why you ain't come to New York yesterday? You think I'm gonna travel all the way to New York to listen to somebody fight? A boxing match I'll go, but to see you tear down him and her tear down her, hell no, I ain't going. For what? To prove what? So the topic last week was, I think, something like is Islam, the origins of Islam.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Neither one of them know what it is.
I'm going up there for that. I'm going up there for that. So as soon as I step up and say I self-harm master, they're gonna tell me to sit down. Today I don't have on my fez, cause I can't fit it. I cut my head, boy, yo. So I can't fit it. So I got it on the kufi. Now the majority of the people outside, they're gonna say Assalamu alaikum, because they're gonna think I'm Muslim. They're gonna think that I'm Islamic. Right. They just thinking something totally different.
Different, right?
I'm talking about science. They talking about doctrine. See, so all of this debating, all of this back and forth, and I can piss further than you can.
Yes.
Y'all spend y'all change on it. That's what y'all. I
But
want y'all.
SetenRa, you usually see it with the males. You don't see that with the sisters. And so that's why I called it a pissing contest, you know, hopefully president company excluded. But it's only showing that their competitiveness. You know, they're wanting to be out front, you know, and do what they have to do. It's just that they have the wrong thing on what it is they're supposed to be. Like warriors without a cause.
I wanted to say something else besides the pissing contest, but
What were you going to
good.
say?
And y'all use your imagination.
Yeah.
Because we talking about men. I ain't gonna say it. Because we talking about men. Because that's all it is. Just to clear it up, I'm bigger than you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just come on. And so, all right, so now you got this whole half of the room on his team, and you got this whole half of the room on his team, and everybody leaving, and everybody lost.
But you see, nobody proves themselves right. They just
Nobody
prove
learns
the other
anything.
person wrong.
Yep.
Everybody lost. Y'all went and got a good show. You had a good time. Yeah, I'm telling you, SetenRa ate him up. He ate Bilal up.
Yeah, it's like
We all
wrestling.
still lost.
It's like wrestling or something.
We all still lost because imagine this.
All fake,
Imagine this. This is the idea my cousin said something about a couple years ago. And right here in Philadelphia, if we just go across the street and pick up one note from every house, and let's just say 5 blocks down, and 2 blocks over, 5 blocks back up. If we get one note from each one of them houses, right, every week, that's a school.
Yep.
He said that years ago. That's a school. You just take that one note, right? They just closed 32 schools, so we got a whole lot of teachers we can get with, right? That's a school. But nobody's gonna go for that. If we go knocking on the doors like, listen, we're trying to get a school teaching children, make sure they learn right science, make sure they learn true history, make sure they can read, make sure blah, blah, blah. They're gonna say, I only want one note per week. It's easily more than 500 houses over here. Easily. Just in that little space that I said, easily, probably 1,000. It's usually 100 houses per block in the city, on both sides of the street. So that's 100 notes from each block. That's a school. But we ain't for that. But it's sort of if they said that SetenRa was going to be Mizraim,
Yeah, boy, let's go right
Because it's like a fight, and people like that.
but that's how they build it up.
That's how-
Because they gonna say SetenRa versus Mizraim.
Yeah. So
And they gonna have me standing there like this, him standing there like that.
it's like a rap battle or something.
And then they promote it. When they should be saying, SetenRa and Mizraim gonna come up here and drop this knowledge on y'all, and everybody should be like, damn, yo, you know what? Rather be on
Be
point.
there.
Let's go see what they got to say. Let's see what we can take from it. They're not doing that with these debates. They're going up there to see who's gonna beat who.
Yeah, that's all you
Yeah,
said.
just
Like a rap
So,
battle.
so when she talked about us fighting each other back then, we never stopped. We still losing. We still losing.
I think it's black consciousness that rock.
Absolutely.
They like controversy.
Absolutely. And the sad part is this. They got one major conduit. I ain't gonna say his name. I ain't gonna but y'all know who it be, right? But he got that hanging up at the spot.
Oh,
And
wow.
it ain't only when he talking to Moors. He got that hanging up in the spot. When SetenRa Bey was at my man's house and he was going back and forth with SetenRa. SetenRa said to SetenRa, he said, I just talked to you on the phone 2 days ago. That ain't what you said. He said, you agree with me. Now, if any of y'all ever seen it, I'll be honest, I don't suggest you watch it to give you a headache.
No, and it's bad.
But what he said was this.
Oh yeah, it was horrible.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I gotta go hard for the people. I'm on the camera now, so I gotta go hard for the people.
It's entertaining.
What?
Yeah.
Right.
Hold on. Now, me myself, if I hear
Yeah,
that,
he's a clown.
if I hear that, and I liked SetenRa, as soon as I hear that, then I can't deal with you no more. I don't want to hear nothing you got to say because you just said you agree with this man that you ain't black. But as soon as you get in front of the camera, you got your chest poked out, and come on, man. He flat out said, I agree with you then on the phone. But right now I'm in front of the camera, I gotta go hard for the people.
Quite honestly, all those debates end up like that. You get
Yes.
somebody who has more information, and the guy who sets up the debate, he makes it seem like they're going at. But if this guy has more information,
It's usually one guy setting
The
up
guy
them
that
debates.
sets it up is Don King of the Moorish Nation. And
Absolutely.
That's all that.
You
I
got
have to
one
say
guy.
is they did call me once and asked me to be a part of something and I refused to show up at any of that crap.
I was surprised to see the interview you did with him.
Well, I didn't mind doing that interview because it was they came to me and they asked me questions and I gave the answers for all those who have ears to hear. But I didn't go, you know what I mean? So I'm not gonna, but I'm not going to join in on, an elder, you should be there at this debate. No, I told them all. Like, just one thing. They said to me, we need to have, what's the word he used? Political cohesiveness. We need you to be there. We need to have political cohesiveness. I said our political cohesiveness is our nationality. I said if I can't get you to agree with that, then
They don't want national cohesiveness.
Right.
Now, but the funny thing is, like I said, he got the flag hanging up at his spot.
because he's using the people that are coming in that know that there's something with them, that this is the Moorish nation and that is the American flag, right? That's terrible. We really should stop that because they're using that as a calling card, but then when you get there, and unfortunately people who don't know enough, they'll twist you this way.
I wonder, and then something just, while she was talking, something just went through my mind. we read a lot of documents. We're going through the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, right? So we did the Declaration of Independence. We did the Articles 1643 and 1777. We read the land ordinance. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but in any of these documents, did y'all ever hear black or white?
No.
There you go.
Agent provocateur.
I'm glad you brought that point out. I just wanted to say, on this subject, I was thinking when you said, if they said it was SetenRa versus whoever, right? People will go pay and travel from afar to see something like that.
Real talk.
But if it was SetenRa versus the state of Pennsylvania, you won't have nobody.
Wow.
And that's a real debate. That's going to be a real debate.
It don't cost nothing but gas or whatever it is to get there. But people will go out of their way to see that. And then when you watch it, and it gets to the end, you're like, all right, now what? Right?
That's how everybody should be leaving. All right, now what? Because she ain't gained nothing.
Exactly.
You watch this brother eat up this brother. And all right, now what? The next one?
They drop a lot of bad information. Boy, you was just talking about not the other dude that he was talking. Not natural terror, he went all of them, but they drop a lot. One of them said that he had to hustle on the street like kids, like the young boys do, to get enough money so he could go to Kemet to see the pyramids and the stuff like that. And I was like, that is just
They're right
so
here.
wrong to say that.
Well, I mean,
And I'm
the
just sitting here
thing
like-
about it is, because people gonna look up to him.
Yeah, well, a lot of young kids are looking up to this
You
guy.
talking about Natural Tahuti?
The other one, Sir,
Sarah Suicide?
yeah, him.
Man, let's get back
I
to
was
the treaty.
yeah.
Let's get back to the
You
treaty.
hit the nail on the head for them, WWF.
Yeah.
Character.
What we on, Article 13?
Yeah.
Article 13, y'all, the treaty. If a ship of war of either party shall put into a port of the other and salute, it shall be returned from the fort with the equal number of guns, not with more or less. Article 14. The commerce with the United States. I'm just gonna let y'all forgive me for looking back. I don't like this open space behind me because I can't see what's going on. I know. But it's just in it, you know what I'm saying? Article 14. The commerce with the United States shall be on the same footing as is the commerce with Spain, or as that with the most favored nation for the time being, and their citizens shall be respected and esteemed and have full liberty to pass and repass our country and seaports whenever they please without interruption. They're still being protected. I'm hoping y'all can see that. If anything, you see something?
That freeze for the time being.
Yeah. Later on,
For the time being. Now, they saying what?
It can and will change. If you're talking about commerce, I'm thinking the value of
All right, hold up.
dollar.
Hold up.
that's the whole truth.
I wrote this up here, right? Y'all remember I wrote this up here?
Yeah.
Right.
And I said, no, don't say nothing. So I said, when y'all realize, remember, y'all, now keep these dates in your mind. Keep the date of the treaty. That. Don't say nothing.
That should be 6. 1836, exactly.
So keep it in mind. Keep that date in mind. What's up, bro?
Right there.
Yep. Yeah, see, you're doing what I asked you to do. When you see stuff, speak on it. It's little subtle things. All it says for the time being, and he picked that up. You know, for the time being, these next couple days, you go. So you got to pick up on that type of stuff. Oh, you just scratching your head?
No,
Oh, all right, cool. Article 15. Merchants of both countries shall employ only such interpreters and such other persons to assist them in their business as they shall think proper. No commander of a vessel shall transport his cargo on board another vessel. He shall not be detained in port longer than he may think proper. And all persons employed in loading or unloading goods, or in any labor whatever, shall be paid at the customary rates, not more and not less. What you see on 14? Absolutely.
Coverage from the United States should be the same foot as it is in coverage from Spain.
Absolutely.
We have a lot of stuff.
So you got to figure the Moroccan Empire was vast. You know what I'm saying? So whatever goods we had over here on this land, what we call North America, probably was in demand. All the cotton that grew down south, they needed clothing. And cotton didn't just start getting plucked when they decided they needed to start getting plucked. It was already there. Cotton don't grow in the desert. They had clothes. So I'm saying, y'all, listen, y'all got it right. When you come to these classes, when you leave these classes, when you listen to the blog talk shows, when you watch the DVDs, at some point this should happen.
Yeah.
That extra eye's got to open up. That extra eye's got to open up. When that third eye opens up, you start seeing all kind of stuff. You be giggling half the time. I gotta be damned. Like everybody else didn't see it, but you sitting there like, look, TV commercials. How about this? How about this? Somebody put a post on Facebook the other day, right? You got a picture of a European lady, and she got a baby strapped to her chest, and her dude standing behind her, right? Now the same product, but you got a Moorish sister standing there with her baby strapped to her chest.
Alright,
no dude.
Yeah. That was crazy.
I went in on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, listen, most people will just walk right over it. But when your eyes open, you see little stuff like that. Those are subtleties, man, that they expect you to just walk right past and don't say nothing.
That's more.
So yeah, but you got to be able to pick up on that.
Islam. Since you mentioned commercials, I wanted to share two that I recognize. They have this one, I think they were selling like the electronic cigarettes. And the commercial starts off and it says, all capital letters means business.
It says that in the commercial?
That's how it starts off.
Wow.
All capital, because they're looking at a sign. It said, all capital letters means business. That's what he said. And then it's another commercial. They got a Heineken commercial where there's people on the ship and they have on pheasants.
Yes.
Did y'all see that? This is
Yeah,
I seen it when they running all around the ship.
Yeah.
I just wanted to add that on.
I think they're trying to make people not see melanated Moors with the
But
fast.
it is some more in there with a fez, and they got a European one.
You know why?
It's a thing. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's it's all out there. It's all in there.
Great Gatsby? Yeah.
Yeah, Great Gatsby.
Yeah. It's something though, man. You see all these cartoons, all the old cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
Cujo posted a cartoon with Popeye the other day.
Who was the squirrel, right?
They was over there.
Squirrel with a fez.
What's that squirrel's name?
Oh, the three little
Well,
secret squirrel, the
Morocco.
Morocco.
Yeah.
Morocco mole.
Morocco
Yeah.
mole. There you go.
Yeah.
Also, the three little pigs. If you get the original Golden Books book, do you notice that he has a fez on top of him 3 times in the book? I mean, the three little bears. I'm sorry, the 3 little bears.
It's so much stuff out there, but like I said, once when you be watching these movies, y'all at some point that should open. I mean, by now y'all eyes should be open, and they don't shut. You close these, but this one stays open. You be dreaming at night, and you be thinking, you be saying that dream seemed real.
I seen 2 movies from back in the day they remade, Transformers and X-Men, and both of them talk on melanin.
Yeah.
Both of them talk about you.
Yes.
Okay.
Both of them talk about you. When you look at X-Men, and you clearly see, I mean, it's all over the place now. The so-called civil
They
rights.
was obsessed with this sister named Mystique. And in the movie, they have this white girl play her, and with all this
Who girl?
Caucasian play her.
European. Albion.
Modern or Albion. By the way, say modern European because we are the original Europeans.
Yeah.
We gave them that land after they were done in the laboratory in South America. We seeded them to the Caucasoid Mountains and over in England because the sun wasn't as dense. But Queen Europa, because see, we always miss it when it comes to the sisters. As soon as we start talking about, nobody does that. Queen Europa, that's why we get attributes by what we do. Europa, to rope them in, right? It's still called Europa today. So that was a sister, and we took them over there. That's why Hitler said, I'm going home to where? Argentina. See, these are the little things that you got to get keys on. That's really the Patmos or Patagonian Islands at that time.
Yeah.
So don't say Europeans, say modern Europeans or Albions or Caucasians
Cretans?
Cretans, because
So-
Cretan and Christian is the same thing.
Yeah, I was talking about the new one, but basically they're just talking about Melanie because they needed her DNA.
Of
And
course.
in the comics, when I used to read it, it was like, they wasn't that big into it, but they had her dress up like a voodoo queen in the old comic books. If you notice, the old Mystique, she had like a skull on her head.
Yeah.
And
Is
she
she the
wore
blue one with the
blue,
diamond
yeah, with that
skin?
shit, like,
So you said they needed her melanin, right?
that's what they was all trying
What
to
you-
do.
what you think they
to
do?
put it to their technology.
I mean, I just watch your hands. How many women had children before? Gave birth. So they told you they disposed of your placenta
Oh, yeah, tell the truth.
I saved one of mine.
because they need the melanin. They keep them. People eat them. They sell them.
Make lipstick
See what I'm
with
saying?
They said you should eat
So
it.
yeah, well,
but I saw
people eat them.
suntan lotion.
Yeah, but
So
That's what God's now was saving them stem cells.
Yeah.
I think he was gonna sell them once.
Yeah, I think he
eventually when
was
the
doing
stem
that.
cell boom comes to the
Yeah.
thing, that's what he was gonna do. That's what he's gonna cure every stroke and everything.
let's finish up this treaty, y'all. We still got to get to the treaty of Tripoli.
okay.
And we still got 10 articles left. Article 15. Merchants of both countries shall employ only, you read this, such interpreters and such other persons to assist them in their business, as they shall think proper. No commander of a vessel shall transport his cargo on board another vessel. He shall not be detained in port longer than he may think proper. And all persons employed in loading and unloading goods, or in any labor whatever, shall be paid at the customary rates, not more and not less. Article 16. In case of war between the parties, what parties? What parties?
More than Christians.
The prisoners are not to be made slaves, but to be exchanged one for another, captain for captain, officer for officer, and one private man for another. And if there shall prove a deficiency on either side, it shall be made up by payment of 100 Mexican dollars for each person wanting. And it is agreed that all prisoners shall be exchanged in 12 months from the time of their being taken, and that this exchange may be effected by a merchant or any other person authorized by either of the parties. Yeah, the Mexican dollars, yeah, but something else just struck me. In a case, let me read this again. In a case of war between the parties, the prisoners are not to be made slaves, but to be exchanged one for another. I'm just now. This is what happens when I study, y'all. I'm just thinking because I'm thinking about the transatlantic slave trade, and if I show up and I kick down your door and I attempt to take you, that's war.
Like I said, war was never
They're declaring war on the
declared,
people.
War don't gotta be declared.
No.
No, if I kick in your door and I kill your family, that's war.
And then, I don't know if I'm overthinking, but could it be considered the Europeans that the Brutes sent to America, the one of them to be one of the slaves taken from West Africa?
Say that again? You
No,
lost.
that was too much.
Yeah. I think you lost.
He's talking after the fact. He's talking like the original slave trade. We must get this clear. Was Moors that had Slavics in slavery. We got to get that clear and keep ourselves out of that because that has nothing to do with this right here. That's what we've been taught.
All right, that's just me. That's just me thinking as I'm reading.
Well, no, when you go to nowadays, what you're saying is absolutely correct because, you know, like when they have declared war on every person in here right now, and we're not responding in kind because we don't think we're a nation of people. We have no knowledge. That's why your straw is not a straw, it's a nom de guerre, which is a war name. It's a war name, a fictitious name,
Because
name
we were
is so
born
fucked up.
in a state of war and or a state of terror means that it's more complex for us to identify with it as a nation of people or just individual beings.
It's more complex for us to identify with it because they have taken slavery and bureaucratized it into really paper, but they only did it because of our lack of knowledge. We're asleep. So we don't realize, like the birth certificate, that, you know, that ain't no contract, that's another thing, but that they're using the bureaucracy of it because we fail to profess who we are, like you said, man for man. We're not doing nothing when they do that. We're like acting like it's all right. You just said nobody's supposed to be treated like a slave, so they bureaucratized it, and we just do not recognize it. They declared war on the people, plus the Constitution. They violated it, which means they declared treason, war on the people. That's why we.
And then they made a law to make what they did legal.
They make ordinances.
They make ordinances. They don't
They
make
don't
laws.
make any law.
They don't
You
make
gotta
laws.
stop talking like that.
Yeah, whatever they enact, there is not a law. The only law is in my hand, and what we're going into next is that Constitution. That's the supreme law. The documents that precede that, the Articles of Confederation, the Declaration, they all apply because they all came before the Constitution.
It's not only war if you just take a life, it's also war if you make sure that you deprive your family of food by
Absolutely.
burning up the land, or you put a fence around it so people can't have access to the land that feeds the family. Those are also acts of war.
Absolutely.
And most definitely, if you take the children, put something foreign in their head, turns them against the natural order of things, that's an act of war.
Absolutely.
Is there a who makes the declaration for what is considered an act of war? Like she said, you know, you got Christian people. We're not Christians.
It don't have to be a declaration made. Nobody I don't have to say to you, listen, I'm about to go in here and kick their door down, and I'm taking all the children, I'm taking all the food, and I'm gonna burn the house. I don't have to tell you, all I gotta do is do it. That's the declaration.
If he pulls out a gun, don't you think he just...
Well, see, I'm an individual, and we all think differently. So to me, like I don't have no fence up on my land.
Right?
You come onto my land, maybe to me, that's an act of war. You know, and whereas you said placing obstacles between one and some food, you know, that's an act of war because when you don't have no food, you're going to die eventually.
Right.
So as far as determining what an act of war is,
I guess that's up to the individual. Now, like I said, when you remember a minute ago when I was standing here, and I keep looking back, and I keep saying, it's just in me, I don't like my back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's
Because I don't know. Because I'm standing here talking, right? Now, imagine if somebody is just walking back and forth, and they just listening, right? Even though Jocko and Body and my cousin and you got my back, and Sekou got my back, Lau got my back, if he decides to hurry up and run over here and knock me in the back of my head,
you got to eat at least one. You got to eat one.
the point that I'm making is that's an act of war. The point that I'm making is that's an act of war. And there's no barrier between us, you know what I'm saying? It's just that he decided I'm going to crack his head. That's an act of war. So he doesn't have to declare. Now if he stands back there and says, I'm about to go over there and crack him in his head, he declared it.
Well, some people, if you constitute a threat, some people, that's an act as well.
That's a declaration of war. That's a declaration of war.
I got a really good, this is an interesting question. I wish I had it, I got part of it on the top of my head, but it is a case law. Y'all gonna love this. This is an act of war. It says, when a judge violates his oath to support the Constitution, he is declaring war. It's right in the damn case law.
Violation.
Thank you. So there's a case law that says it. So guess what? They've been violating the Constitution. They have declared war. It says that he can't uphold his oath to uphold it and then underpin it. I wish I had it with me right now, but I'm gonna make sure I'll put it up on the site. Y'all go on the front page and look for this, but it's already established. That's an act of war.
Absolutely.
Before you go, I just want to add this one little piece because it goes back to what the sister was saying here. Was that when we put it in our minds, when our people are saying that Black Power stuff, that is a psychological act of war that we are internalizing.
It's like self-genocide, right?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. Oh,
It's like, I mean, because you gotta figure. Like I said it plenty times. I stood in front of you. The very first time that I heard Black broken down in a civics class, I was done with it. I don't listen. You don't gotta tell me something 3 times. Make sense of it, and then I look it up and say, well, dang, Listen, I don't say black. I talked to you on the phone. We done been on the phone for more than an hour at a time.
Yeah,
Plenty.
he doesn't say it.
He
I
stopped-
can
he
fumble
stopped talking
and use
if you
every
say it.
word in the book that I'm supposed to say. He doesn't say anything. I know.
You know what I'm saying? But now, I want to ask y'all a question. Are y'all clear that the Treaty of Peace and Friendship was a treaty that was given to the European by the Moor that allowed them to do commerce and gave them protection? Are y'all clear on that?
Yes.
Just by what we read?
Yes.
Good. Because we got less than a half hour, so we can just questions and mingle and do whatever. But for those who don't have treaty books, go see Roz and get one. Because I want you to go home, and I want you to read the rest of it, but I also want you to read the Treaty of Tripoli. Now, right here, when I put that date up there, the last thing we're going to look at is Article 25. Article 25? Article 25. Same, where you was just at. Where you was just at. Flip the page. Flip the page. 62 in your book.
Okay,
Article 25. In other book, I think it's, I don't know, what page y'all got? 47? 47.
Yeah.
47 in the other book. All right, Article 25. This treaty shall continue in full force with the help of God for 50 years. We delivered this book into the hands of the before mentioned Thomas Barclay on the first day of the blessed month of Ramadan in the year 1200. I certify that the annex, well, that's not part of 25. That's just what Thomas Barclay said. Now, earlier when I said keep that date in mind, why do we keep that date in mind? It's 50 years later. So what happens every 50 years? It expires and it needs to be, right. All right, so keep that in mind.
So what are the
Actually,
ground-
it
what are
doesn't
the ground-
expire. Not
It
really.
just has to be,
It's perpetual.
It's perpetual.
But what happens is, because this is the biggest misunderstanding, you got to go to the congressional records and read everything that dealt with creating the treaty. Every 50 years, they have the opportunity to revisit it for alterations. So when they said this is 50 years, that is 50 years. If there's any changes, that's what I said, for the time being, different things like that. Because if there are any changes or alterations to be made, the modern European, had to make application to make the alterations if the Moors accepted it. So in 1836 is exactly 50 years, and the only reason they met was because Hashem Il, which is the Sultan passed for him, he died, right? And so Hashem Il took his place and his father's position. And if you go to the congressional records, I got it right on the site on Moore's responsibilities and abilities, go all the way down. I got the word for word verse out of the congressional records where the Europeans were saying, oh my God, did you see the Sultan's son today? Did you see him in the courtyard? We got to get with him. We got 25,000. We got to make sure, we'll offer him 20. But if not, we got up to 25,000. We got to make sure that he's going to keep this treaty that his father said. Because he could say no. He could say, I'm not honoring it, not because of that it's every 50 years, but just because. They offered 25,000 in tribute, and it's in the congressional records. I have it on the site. That skit right there, all of us should be making a play out of that. Right out of the congressional records, because that's true history right there. When you read it, you can see the energy, you can feel it. You can imagine these Europeans in the courtyard of Paris, which really was here, trying to chase down the Sultan's son. It's very, very invigorating. So the thing is that they met in 1836 and only one thing changed. You know what the one thing is that changed? The fact that the Sultan was no longer present and his son was there. That was it. And his son went on with the treaty. So the next 50 years is 1987. What did Clinton do in 1987? You got to look at it. They can't revisit that without the Declaration of Human Implementation, Apology for Slavery. Or some bullshit like that.
1986.
1987 was the next year, but 1836 was the first next meeting from 1787. 1836 they met because it was 50 years later and nothing changed. 1836. 36. That's what happened in 50 years. But because Moors are sitting in this room and they don't know nothing about it, they ain't meeting, so therefore it can't change. Because the modern European, cannot alter it. They can tell you that it is not effective, but let's just say this. This is very important. Here's how you know that your ancestors were eloquent. Because they got it up against the Constitution to be enforced. So in order to truly enforce it, you must enforce the Constitution. You can't just enforce it by itself. But if you don't meet to make alterations, which you haven't, there are none. So it is perpetual, and it's one of the biggest misunderstandings we have is about that treaty, in that it died in 50 years. That's just what it said there, but in the records you'll see they meet. That's why he got that up there. 1836, do the math, 50 years later. And then go, like I said, study the congressional records and find the only difference. Hashemel is now in place of his father, Ibn Abdullah, right. His son was Hashemel. So he's the last to be in place with that. And that's why it's included. And so we were talking about, somebody said, well, the treaty's not enforced. Yes, it is. If you're enforcing the Constitution, you're enforcing all treaties that are ever made. I just wanted to make that clear because...
Y'all pick up them treaty books for people who don't have it. Pick it up, read the rest of this treaty, go the next couple pages over, read the extension, the Treaty of Triple E. But don't just pick up the book and read that. Read the entire book. There's a lot of information in there. You're going to get to the back of the book and you're going to see the original 13th Amendment. It's going to be in the back of that book with its 20 sections. So when we come to next class, and we go on that Constitution, I'm hoping that in the next 2 weeks, somebody's going to open up a book, turn on a computer or something, and start reading the Constitution. If you don't understand everything that you read in the Constitution, that's fine. Do some research. And if you still don't understand it, that's still fine. That's why we have these classes. So we can sit around and so we can discuss it and talk about it.
I just wanted to make one announcement, may I please? If you're closing out, right? Or just before you close out. Oh, all right. Did you discuss it, or how many people listened to the Blog Talk show where we broke down the birth certificate redemption thing? How many heard that? You heard it? Okay. All right. This is very important because mostly there's a lot of your black brethren who are trying to, I guess, make finance and whatever they're doing, I don't know. I'm not going to speak for why they do what they do. But they're saying that you have to go get your birth certificate, have it notarized by a notary, then take that notary, and when you have it notarized with the notary, you have to have other identification that says you are in fact what the birth certificate says you are, which is crazy, right? But anyway, I'm telling you what the redemption process is now, because we got the papers. I'm telling you what we know. So now, after you have it notarized by a notary under the corporate state's notary, then you take it to your local Secretary of State, and they, with this affidavit that you got it notarized, that you're saying that you are who this birth certificate says you are, you get the local Secretary of State to apostille it, right? Then after you get the local Secretary of State, because do know that the Secretary of the Department of State and the Secretary of any local state are two different things. When we say notified department heads, Department of States, we're not talking about the local corporations. We're talking about the Department of State, Hillary Clinton's old office, which is now John Kerry, was the Attorney General, Holder, things like that, all right? So after you get it apostilled in the local Secretary of State, then you go and take it to the Department of State, which is where we tell you to put on notice anyway. You done went through all the, and by the way, in between that, you're supposed to tell them that you're utilizing it in Taiwan. What? Yeah, yes. It's right there. Now, I want to say this to you. I don't even need to tell you what's all wrong with that, right? Because in the end, you're supposed to notify the department and state that you are more, you're awake, you're conscious, you ain't asking them nothing, you're just putting them on notice, period. Done, right? Now, they're going to have you go through this process and see that you're utilizing it in Taiwan. Please be aware that that is a European's process of trying to do everything they can to not say their own nationality. They know that they must expatriate in their minds. They know they're not the true Americans. They definitely know that their sovereignty movement, that a lot of Moors have mistaken in saying that this is a sovereignty movement. Sovereignty comes with your nationality. Yes, it's about your sovereignty, but it ain't a sovereignty movement. Because without nationality, you have no sovereignty, which is why the Europeans did that sovereignty movement didn't work for them. Because this isn't their land. They're not the national. So they threw that out to all of us Moors because it didn't work for them, and they know we're going to grab it. Because we refuse to take our place and be responsible. Now, if you do this process and you say, yeah, utilizing Taiwan, you just abandon your estate. They know it's not their estate, so they're trying to go somewhere and do something, anything except for go back home, right? So that's not for us. But do you know how many Moors will actually do that? A lot are doing it, and they think it's the answer because they're lazy. They have no courage. They don't have any courage at all to stand up and be independent Moors. They just don't have it. I just want to say this, because we just found out Tuesday before we did the show, that, for instance, in the state of Maryland, where all of these Moors was going by the droves, just going to get their birth certificate certified and notarized, they cut it off. They're not giving them to you because they're not yours anyway. They're a receipt. And so if they cut them off in Maryland, they're going to go tomorrow in a round table meeting, these Europeans, and figure out what to do about all these Moors that are coming to get the certificate. And I guarantee you they're probably going to come up with a writ of discovery or a contract. All right, if you promise not to use this copy for a redemption process, or all this stuff that they're going to make you contract. Here's the thing, and I'm done. This is the importance. Some Moors will actually, because of their mental, remember the prophet said, I come to take you out of your mental slavery. And our word of the season is the way you perceive the problem is the problem. Do you know that some Moors are going to jump through whatever hoop and sign whatever contract they said, and here's why. Because they believe in their mind that they got to go through this redemption process with the birth certificate, so therefore they're going to do that because they think that's the answer. This is the mental slavery. And I'm done. You wanted to make a comment.
See, this is what I enjoy. I don't know how many of y'all remember, back in February, I said, you know what, I'm going to teach everybody this process that she just explained, right? So I said, in order to teach it to y'all, I'm going to do it, right? So I get in the vehicle, and I go to Harrisburg. And I'm going there, and I get the little apple steel, and as I'm walking out of the building, real talk. Now, if y'all remember, this was when my computer died, and then I'm standing up in front of y'all, and I'm like, look, my computer crashed, but I got the whole process off the top of the head, so I'm going to give it to you. Now, I said I don't suggest that you do it.
Right.
But I'm going to give it to you. Now, the reason I didn't suggest it was this. As I'm walking out, I was like,
Right.
what'd I say? I didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the hell am I thinking?
Right.
Going into it, and I just, when I already know that is futile, when I already know that come on, I'm the authority, and I'm going to you to get permission.
Right.
But I didn't say I was going to Taiwan. I lied and said I was going to Antigua.
Somewhere.
All they want is a which damn it, off the top of your head.
An apostille.
No, but it's a the Geneva, was it the Geneva Convention? All right, so you got to give them a non-state from the Geneva Convention, right? So the first one that was on the list was Antigua. So I told them I was going to Antigua, and they gave me the apostille. And as I'm walking out, I'm like, what the hell am I thinking? Going to the corporation to get permission to do anything. I'm me.
That's right.
And if y'all remember, I came in here and told y'all that. I said, listen, I said don't do it. But if you're going to, I'm gonna put it on the board. Because I know some people gonna run off and do it anyway. Some people got to get hit by a car. You understand? Don't walk in the street. I ain't have to get hit by the car. I came outside to see the cars and I stopped. And I said, I don't have to do this. Now, I was listening to the show Tuesday. I told her, I said, yo, we talking about this? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
But real talk, when they talk about them apple steals, you're getting an apple steal from somebody who ain't even supposed to be in office, who don't have no authority, no jurisdiction over you. They don't have no right telling you what you can and cannot do.
Yes.
They work for you.
And also SetenRa Bey still, we may be real clear that it's really nothing but a glorified notary.
That's it.
That's really what it is. But
That's
more importantly, what I do, I mean, all of this is important and right, because like you said, you know people gonna do it, and they are doing it, and people are taking finance from their brethren to do it. But the fact that they, in the state of Maryland, because that's going to be consistent everywhere, that they stopped it from happening, and they're going to go in a round table and try to come up with something, and the fact that we would actually listen in to try to comply to whatever they come up with to get this birth certificate receipt, which isn't really a record, but it is what's impacting for us to see, because we're trying to find a process to make it voidable, but we don't recognize that it's void ab initio, because it's not a contract anyway, and your mom, and so see, this is what they'll say your mom contracted you. First of all, it's not a contract. Second of all, if it were a contract, it would have to have had full disclosure. And third of all, the reality of it all is your mother said you are SetenRa, or James Smith, whatever she said. And she meant that from her DNA somewhere, she has some conscience somewhere, Uncle Joe, somebody. They took what your mother breathed out of her mouth, and they put it in all caps and incorporated it, and that was not their permission to do. Even if it were, you can't do that. That's genocide.
I'm gonna make something clear, and we can close on this unless anybody has anything.
Yeah, I have something. I have an announcement I would like to make.
Okay. Stop bullshitting.
I love it.
All right? Stop bullshitting. Stop tiptoeing around the bush, because you know what time it is. Regardless, forget about the emotion. We ain't talking emotion. We talking common damn sense. Everybody got common. Some people got a little less, but everybody has common sense. If you can read, you can comprehend what you read, and you can look. You can look at me. You can look at Lyra. You can look at SetenRa. You can look at Shirley. You can look at W. Ain't not one of us black. Not one of us. Not one of us. Now, the first thing you got to do is start changing the way you think and talk. Because when you ain't gonna get me the same. I'm not calling you me. I'm not saying. Why? Because I know it's a legal status that puts me where I don't need to be. Because I've been to other nations, and they have never called me black. And they will not call themselves white. I done been to these places time and time again. It doesn't happen, only here. The documentary that we gonna watch, Henry Louis Gates just kept on saying it. Black, black,
Yeah,
black,
yeah.
black, black, black.
You're so right.
They know they not black. They Morenos. They know. They said it. We Morenos. You talk about the Maroons in the Caribbean. They know.
Yeah.
They not gonna let you call them black. Now, listen, this ain't no plea. This ain't no plea, because if you continue to do it, that's on you. I'm not going to do it. I'm just a messenger. So if you want to continue to do it, just so be it. But beware of what you are saying and what it does to you and your people. Because when you say you're black, you're just dead in the eyes of the law. There is no nation on this planet called black. There is no flag on this planet to represent the nation called black, nor African American, which was given to you by Jesse Jackson back in the 80s, nor Negro, nor colored, nor coon, none of that. Be who you are. I got the book right here that tells you who the original American is. It says, in here, the copper-colored individuals found on the continent when the European arrived. Anybody don't believe me, take a look. It's simple. I had enough of the nonsense that I'm not a Moor, I'm Washita, I'm Chickasaw, Hicktaw, Choctaw, whatever. Give a damn what you call it. You're still an Aboriginal Indigenous American. I had enough. It's because it's nonsense, y'all. Just like Ross said, we was fighting back then, we fighting now. Just like Miss Ryan said, it's the whole black power thing. What the hell is black power? All these years and they ain't got no power, they ain't knocked down no buildings yet. So what the hell is black power? Nothing.
But SetenRa, there is one other thing, because a lot of times people will separate Moor from American because they don't understand that Amir, the root word of American is Amir, A-M-E-R. And it could be A-M-I-R or A-M-O-R. And that's how Moor and American is the same thing.
I know that, but you know what the problem is?
What?
Too many people want to argue.
Over that. Yeah.
I'm not a Moor.
Right.
So if we just break them in slow and then hit them with the knockout blow once they get in here and start seeing, because eventually you're gonna see it on your own. You can say when me and I was with Abdullah in Pleasantville at a bookstore, and the dude that owned the bookstore busted up the lecture. I guess he had enough of whatever it was Abdullah was saying. He didn't like the fact that Abdullah was saying that we was Moors. Now he was from Jamaica, right? He said, so the way you saying it is the only way it's supposed to be. Now this part y'all not gonna see on the DVD because Abdullah chopped it because there's no point in having it.
Yeah.
So you saying we all Moors? So the way you see it is the only way it's supposed to be? Abdullah said, where you coming off with that from? He said, well, you saying we all Moors? He said, we are. He said, well, my family from down there.
Oh, that's right.
So what I do to be slick, I tell people about stuff like the OAS. Write it down and look it up if you don't know what it is. The OAS. No, don't look it up on your phone. Write it down. The OAS, the Organization of American States. So you can clearly see that Jamaica is an American state. So you're the same damn thing.
Exactly.
So you can see that Puerto Rico is an American state.
Right.
Yeah.
Not a territory. Like they see, they tell you it's a territory of the United States. No, it's an American state.
So did you say that to the Jamaican?
Did I say that to him? No, him and Abdullah was going at it. I was in the back holding the camera.
Did he say that to him?
No, because what happened is,
That's your-
this is what I'm saying to y'all, because that dude just got pissed off. It was his bookstore. He just started knocking stuff over and the meeting was over. He didn't ask Abdullah about it. Yeah, the brother in Pleasantville, the Hakeem's nephew, the big dude, yeah.
We were supposed to be there, but we had disappointment in Asbury Park that
He
day.
wasn't supposed to.
See?
So I guess we weren't
Wasn't
supposed to be there.
Yeah, because he busted up the meeting. So the reason I don't bombard people and say that we Moors, although I know, is because I just hit them in the head. I just get them slowly. It's a 12-round fight. It's the third round. You know what I'm saying?
That's what being black.
It's the third round. Yeah.
That's what being black's done for you so far.
Yeah, see, people, yeah, see, what the thing is this, like, they'll come up with all types of stuff. Black power, black this, black that, black this. Do you know, through all of that, we still don't have nothing.
2 laws, I think.
Through everybody dying, through people being shot, Medgar Evers being shot in the driveway in front of his children, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X being shot on the stage. Through all of that, we have nothing.
I need more science and hearing about that. It's a
We got these classes, we got books, we got the internet, we got DVDs, we got blog talk shows. So we got a lot,
And we got each other.
and we got each other.
That's right.
Oh, that's sweet. We got each other.
So real talk, let's stop the bullshit. And I ain't cursing, I'm just talking, they words. Let's stop the bullshit and let's get to work.
On that note, tomorrow, I'm going to show a documentary. It's called Movement, Let the Fire Burn. And I'm showing that tomorrow at 3 o'clock, from 3 to say 7. And refreshments will be served. And hopefully you can come out and observe it.
Where's it gonna be?
It's going to be here. It's going to be downstairs in the ballroom from 3 to 7.
He's special, he gets ballroom, we get.
Yeah.
You had something, Miss Wright?
Yes, sir, I did. I just wanted to add on part of me. I was just signing in. I just wanted to add on when you were mentioning about black, and this being the only place that they say it. We went to a meeting in Manhattan Island probably about 2 years ago, and it was a beautiful sister. She came from the islands, and she said, out of everything that everybody was allowed to come up and say, we never really built with her like that. But this was her words exact. She said, out of everywhere I've been, I never heard people call themselves black until I got here, because she was from the islands. She said that. Whatever the spirit, like, that's what she said, because it's real. And I met a brother I never saw in my life. Never saw him in my life. And he was like really, really dark melanated. Like, you know, you would be like, oh, you blurry like that. He was dark melanated, and he had on some black wallabies. And my man, he said, you see my shoe? He was like, my whole life, they tried to convince me that I was the color of my shoe, and I believed it. But as I look in the mirror today, I clearly see I'm not black. I never talked to this man in my life. I didn't say nothing about my Moorish nationality or nothing. I was just listening to him. So he already knew something. And I just wanted to say, consistent with what you were saying with the definition of American. In the book, Nature Knows No Color Line, page 87, they have significant definition of Moor that is consistent with the definition of American. And we read it on Tuesday blog, so if you go back and listen, you can get it verbatim, or get your hands on the book called Nature Knows No Color Line, page 87, J.A. Rogers.
Page 87?
Yeah, page 87.
Page 87. Go ahead, H.
I just was gonna ask if the Move documentary was the same one that came on Channel 12.
Yes, I believe it is. PBS?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the same one.
If y'all get a chance, go to YouTube and watch the lecture I did on Move. I did that a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Yeah, go just type in SetenRa Bey on YouTube and check it out. I had John Africa's older sister, Louise Africa, in the building with me. And sad to say, she got on fire and went off, but y'all not gonna get to see that because we struck her. She really, like I'm sitting next to her and it was like 110 degrees. She went off. But check out, if you can come out and check out what he's showing tomorrow, come check it out, because what I found out and preparing for the presentation is a lot of people didn't know about Move. Anybody here, just by show of hands, don't know about Move? Well, Move was an organization. Move was an organization that was started here in Philly in the early 70s by a man named John Africa. John Africa had his philosophy on how things should be. He was like one of the most analytical thinkers that you would ever come across. He was not educated in their system, but highly educated in ours. See, he was a man, he was a child that was said that was uneducable, that he couldn't learn, that he was dumb, and just throwing away. And here's this man that led this organization of people that they called, what's the word? And the word is actually correct. It means extreme. Radicals. A group of radicals. And each one of us can be considered radical because we're extreme. We're nationality. You see what I'm saying? So they said this man was uneducable and that he was just plain old plumb dumb. Well, he ended up leading a group of people that the city had an issue with because they were actually out teaching people about a lot of what we teach. What I found out that day was this, that although they were not teaching civics or law or nationality, I won't even say law because they were teaching law, they were like Moors, conscious Moors who didn't know that they were conscious Moors. From sitting there talking to her and from doing the research and the study I did, they kicking the same knowledge that we kick. They just didn't know that they were nationalized. See, and what ended up happening was Frank Rizzo, who was the mayor at the time, he was police commissioner before that. Many of the elders here who've been in Philadelphia, they know Frank Rizzo was cracking heads. He was cracking skulls. And because the Move organization was out in public and talking against corporation talking against Rizzo and his goons, he was kicking ass. Two women they beat while they were pregnant, lost their children. None of them police officers got prosecuted. Forgive me, police, not officers. None of those police were convicted. No. What they did to what Rizzo did to, did you mention the Panthers?
Yeah, the Panthers,
What
they were stripped.
what he did to the Panthers was made them strip in Fairmount Park. And then they put it on the front page of the paper.
29th Street.
Across the world.
That's 29th Street they was on.
Huh?
29th Street.
29th Street?
29th and Columbia, between Columbia and Oxford.
There you go. Now, what ended up happening with the move people ultimately was this. Rizzo decided that they needed to get out of the house that they were in and gave them 90 days to leave. The 90 days expired, they didn't leave. Rizzo showed up with a bulldozer, 1,000 police on horses, 10,000 rounds of ammunition, 50 caliber rifles. They had police posted up on roofs. They had police posted up in windows. Where you know how they get the sandbags, like if you at war and you got the sandbags, this is how they set up for 23 people. 23 people. I think 11 children, if I'm not mistaken. So what ended up happening was they busted out the windows and they took water hoses and filled the basement because they were all in the basement. Filled the basement to try to flush them out, to try to drown them, really. Somebody from across the street started shooting. Not to move, because they were in the basement. Somebody from across the street started shooting. And the police said, okay, game time. And they cut loose. They didn't shoot anybody, but 2 police ended up getting shot. Now, as I told you, they were in the basement. If I'm facing the basement, how can I get shot in the back of my head on a downward trajectory by somebody in the basement? It's physically impossible, right? Now, like I told you, they had them posted up in the window. They had them posted up on rooftops. They opened fire and shot their own gun. 2 of them. They're killing 1 of them. So right now you have 8 MOVE members who are in prison right now for a sentence of 30 to 100 years for the murder of that cop. Now, the judge didn't have, the magistrate didn't have a murder weapon and no tangible proof to say you did it. 30 to 100 years. He said, because they parade as a family, I sentence them as a family. The house was torn down, and that was supposed to be the end of MOVE. Well, the house was torn down that day. And the reason Rizzo said he tore it down that day was because he didn't want him to go back in. But the reason they tore it down is for evidence. See, for evidence. So they can't say where the shot came from. They can just say that MOVE did it. And then in 1985, some of y'all might remember, because they had a standoff with the police, where the police actually shot more than 10,000 rounds of ammunition into the house down on Osage Avenue. And they could not get them out because they had the house fortified. The fire commissioner got with the police commissioner, and everybody say, you know, Mayor Good. Mayor Good wasn't even on the scene. Mayor Good was at his office. The police commissioner and the fire commissioner devised a plan to drop a device on the roof to try to smoke him out. Well, the device was 4 pounds of C4. 4 pounds of C4. Now, if y'all remember, they burned down 61 houses in the process. The reason that documentary is called Let It Burn is because that's what the fire commissioner said. When the police chief said, can we put that out? We said, yeah, let it burn. They ain't come out the house yet. Now, the reason they couldn't come out the house, and Ramona Africa will tell you this, is because when they were trying to come out the back basement window, the police was cutting at them. So they kept going back in. So Ramona came out, she had burns. When Birdie came out, Birdie had burns all over his body, and in fact, when he died a few months ago, he was still wearing the wounds from the burns on his body. See, so when we talk about war, that's war. They committed genocide. See, so when I did the lecture, of course I'm gonna present the information, but I also gotta put the spin on it, because I gotta teach them about nationality. So we got these 8 individuals in prison, men and women, who don't know they're Moors, who don't know that they were railroaded. Well, they do know, but they don't know why. Because when you go up there saying you black power and black this and black that, they like, cool, 30 to 100. 30 to 100. But this is what happened right here in the city that we running around in that a lot of people don't know about. Everybody, see, I'll tell you what Louise Africa said to me. She said, people would say this is the second time that we know of, because we don't know of every disaster, every war that's been committed against us. And a lot of people know about Black Wall Street, right? So she said, a lot of people say this is like another Black Wall Street, but she pointed something out. Black Wall Street was done by just people on the street.
Yeah.
This was done by the city government.
But for them to have had a plane and drop something down.
That was some individuals. Yeah, that was some individuals playing, but the city government did that to move. And the thing is this, you're talking about public officials and you're talking about foreigners.
Right.
That's an international war. There's venues for that. There's venues for that. When y'all get a chance, do some real research on it. Check it out. Check out Moore. Check out Black Wall Street. I did the lecture on Black Wall Street 2 or 3 times. Check it out. And listen, man, our history is sad. But you know why? It's because we won't move forward. Listen, it's 2014. It's 2014. Black Wall Street was when? 1921. All right. Was Prophet Noble Drew Ali alive in 1921?
Sure was.
And he out here dropping his science and giving it to you and telling you who you are. But you still want to sit over here and say, you know what, the hell with that. I got a nice car, a nice house. We live good on Black Wall Street.
Still right there.
Now, the twist that I put on that, because I'm always going to put the nationality twist on whatever I do. I told everybody what happened in Black Wall Street. I told everybody about them giving away all of that finance and all of that land to the Indian tribes who decided to be a part of the Bureau of Indian Affairs to receive that land and receive that fiat. But imagine if everybody in Tulsa, Oklahoma was nationalized. Imagine if the land was nationalized.
Yeah, I definitely, because my question is that it wasn't the courts at that time allowing the citizens to go out and shoot and rob those indigenous people.
They was all good old boys.
Exactly.
They were the people.
They was good old boys. All they did was went home and put on their white hoods and
They didn't
jackets.
even, I seen some of the shots. They was telling citizens tell them they could go out there and just go shoot. The judges told them they could go ahead and do that stuff.
When you study Black Wall Street, you see the sheriff tried to keep that from happening. But it was just too many of them. He tried to keep it from happening. It was just too many of them. And then pandemonium broke out. But you gotta see. Earlier we was talking about wars. Those are wars.
Also, before Black Wall Street was Wilmington, North Carolina.
Wilmington, North Carolina.
That was
Rosewood.
1800s.
Yeah, I mean, they've been trashing you. I mean, hell, even what they did with Denmark Vesey. I mean, you're still talking about international affairs. We don't get it out your head that you're talking about racism. Racism don't exist
Right.
because it's only one race. That's the human race, and who we gonna be against? It's us. So racism don't exist. So wipe that out of your head and understand that you're dealing with international affairs.
Also, because, you know, when you think about it, you've seen these people who were just, like you said, just the common Europeans in the street, you know, was doing this. But what we have to remember is that these are the children, these are the sons of the daughters of the American Revolution. You know, we keep forgetting that they utilized their womb to establish their sons to come out of their womb to hate and destroy our sons. So their demeanor and their mentality is such to be and act that way. That's why it was like, you know, you say, well, these are just people in the street. They were raised with a mindset from their mothers to come out and do that. That's why we tell women, you know, it's all about what we put into our womb and what we put into society. So they did that purposely because they were rebelling against being in the condition they were in terms of their status and also being concubines previously in our Moorish sons' harems. So when you think, well, it's out of control, no, it's just a matter of mental status, I guess, of all beings. I guess that's the right word. Yeah.
Any questions about anything? Any more announcements? second Saturday in July. And I'm gonna announce this now, the 12th. I altered the dates in July as well, like I did this month, simply because next Friday is July 4th. And I know some people gonna go out and see fireworks, and I know some people might be out of town, so we just scrapped that weekend. So we ain't gotta stress nobody. So it will be, although, and I'm gonna say this, although I shouldn't have to do that. We should be here regardless. But just because I did it. So we're gonna have class the 12th. And then we're gonna have it on the 4th, Saturday as well. And then it always will go back.
I heard some people say they don't recognize 4th of July. You really need to know.
They don't know about the astrology yet.
Yeah, that
They
and.
don't know about the astrology yet.
But also the fact that they made that declaration where it pertains to you and your land. That's something
Right,
that
right.
the Declaration of Independence wasn't you, but you need to have it in your file cabinet because it's in our records. We allowed that to go down, so don't start. That's like separating Christmas, and we don't celebrate Christmas. You need to, if you know what it really is. You know what I mean? So we need to acknowledge it for what it is.
And maybe we can get Roz to give us some astrology.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. She can give us the astrology of all these days.
Put her on blast.
So we good? Islam, peace and love.